What's up, everybody? It's Friday night. Holy shit, we survived another week. And thank you, everyone, that's joining me. I see a couple people there already. Feel free to sound off. Who's here? Where you're from? What you're drinking? Because we got some tea and rum. Hey, Bob's here. What? Bob's here. Bob's here for the double feature. That's right. Tonight we're gonna have a double feature. We're gonna have 2 topics and 3 guests. Holy shit. Holy shit. All right. So let me go over the rules real fast, and then I'm going to grab my first 2 guests to come in here. So let me do my cheater up here so I know what I'm doing. There we go. Oh, I got to change my icon so I can actually see the first rule. There we go. So the rule number 1 is you are welcome to ask any kind of paranormal related questions. That's fine. In return, I or my guest will give you our opinions on it. My skeptical opinion and whatever opinion my guests have. So there you go. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is that I don't know everything. That should be obvious to you guys by now if you follow the show. But I am not afraid to look up stuff. I am not afraid to say I don't know. I am not afraid to say I'll get back to you, which I do. Rule number 3 is listen to Patrick Swayze and be nice. I'm the only one to be that's allowed to be a dick. But no, be nice to each other. Don't argue. You can debate. That's fine. But if it gets out of hand, I will boot you. Only one person has gotten that title so far, so don't be number 2. Number 4 is that if you have a question, please do me a favor. Put a Q or a question, the word question in front of it, and that helps me go through the comments and put them up there and find them when I get behind. And then rule number 5, absolutely drink up. So with that said, my first topic tonight is it's about bad research practices. And it's come up a lot lately, especially with things like the vaccine and COVID and shit like that. But I wanted to not only talk about it myself, I called in for some backup. So as you'll see, I'm actually going to take away my overlay for the first time during this show. I'm going to take it away because I want to make sure that my guests don't get messed up. So here, let me just bring them on. So we got the guys from 3 Tortured Souls. So we got Dave over here, and we got Tim down here. These are the guys, in case you haven't seen it, on Saturday nights, I do another podcast called 3 Tortured Souls, in which the 3 of us get together, and we talk about a topic, and we have a discussion. So, hey, guys.
Hey, Kenny. How you doing?
Good. Not buzzed yet, so I'm working on it.
I can fix that. Energy.
Oh, my God. Here we go.
This is why he brought us on.
That's why, yes. So, basically, yeah, tonight's topic, we talked about this, and Dave, Tim, and I have this ongoing messenger thing on Facebook, and we constantly talk pretty much every day. We talk about different topics, and we throw out ideas. And this is something that's been bothering me for a while, and it's bothered me a lot recently. Just bad research practices, presenting evidence from bad sources, or just bad practices altogether. So I have a list here, and like I said, I brought you guys on for not only backup, but not really backup, just to have a discussion, because you guys have a background in this kind of stuff too. You deal with this a lot. So it's good to have that kind of expertise and experience. So first up, I want to throw out there is that I cannot stand. Oh, we got an emergency. I don't know if you can hear that, the siren in the background.
It's because there's 3 of us on the same show.
We got like the air raid
siren going off.
So the first topic, the first I guess category is rumors and hearsay. And this is basically the definition of hearsay is basically information received from other people that one cannot adequately substantiate. Also rumor. So it's pretty much and I wanted to clip it out and put it on, but it's basically like, my brother's sister's cousin's second roommate. If they tell you a story,
Oh boy.
that is hearsay. If they tell you a story and you accept it at face value, that's hearsay, because you can't substantiate that. And I really can't stand that. I can't stand when people tell me, oh, well, I heard from a friend, they told me this. Because me, and you guys know me, the first thing I do is, who's your friend? Like, who said this? You know, sister's boyfriend, you know, uncle's cousin, what? Who said it? And then we start looking for it. What do you guys think? Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100% that that's a problem, especially when you're arguing a point of science or it goes against, I don't know how many, you brought up COVID and the vaccine. How many hundreds of research articles have been put out in medical journals, science journals? It's all out there. Mm-hmm. And somebody will come in and say, like you said, my friend's brother's cousin's roommate's dog's friend told me that this is what it is, or this is the experience they had, which I understand you're going to have your personal experience and that can be meaningful. But when you can't even get to that person or verify what they said, you could be making it up. We don't know. The other thing I've seen recently, which goes along with this, is people will put a screenshot or a meme up as evidence.
Right.
With no source, nothing, whatever. So I think that falls in the same category. It's like, I read this somewhere, somebody told me this, and I either typed it up and put it on the screen to make it look more legitimate, or I'm just going to show you what they sent me, but I can't provide a reference or a source.
Right.
So there's a whole lot of that going on. And it's fine. If you have something somebody told you, you should be able to provide some details. You should be, you don't have to give their last name or whatever. We all want to remain somewhat anonymous, except for us three. Anybody can probably figure out where we're all at with our backgrounds these days.
Right.
But it has to be more than I heard somebody say this.
Yes.
Especially when you're having a detailed discussion on a public health issue in a medical science context. So that's my spiel on it. So I agree with you. Obviously, it drives me nuts. I've seen a lot of it, and I think it was weeks ago that I was just ranting to both Kenny and Tim about some of the complete utter bullshit that's ending up on social media about a variety of topics.
What do you think, Tim? Yeah,
there is nothing I don't disagree with. I think probably like most of us have been through the my sister's brother's cousin works at a hospital that's next door to a COVID factory, and you're like, what the fuck does that even mean? And and you're like, okay, so like stories, okay. If you're going to say, if you want to relay a story, that's fine. And because maybe sometimes when we try to talk about our experiences or something that we've got a part of some type of knowledge from, we want to express it and convey it on. But I mean, you just can't take it at face value. I've heard a lot about recently. I've heard a lot about people passing out and going into cardiac arrest after their vaccinations, and I haven't found a credible resource references for that.
Right.
And Dave, in talking about the memes, you can take the dumbest quote and put it on top of a picture of a lab coat with a stethoscope around it, and people will be like, yeah, but it's got a stethoscope in it, so it's true. Mm-hmm. You got to let it go. And and the hearsay thing, I'm taking notes as you were going. In my field, I mean, hearsay is just a no. I mean, there's some exceptions to hearsay, but a lot of the exceptions to hearsay come under very strict guidelines as to how you can make an exception for a hearsay, but it still doesn't mean it goes to a statement of fact.
Right.
It just means that there's something about that type of hearsay that can lead towards the credibility of the person that's saying it or what you're looking for. So I hate them all. I think there's genuine danger in it, and I think there's genuine danger for people that want to keep that type of rumor mill and disinformation and misinformation afloat.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I can't stand when it's not only just a meme or something. It usually comes up or comes out because somebody makes a comment, and it's like on a thread, and somebody makes a comment like, well, this happens. Say a bunch of people died because of this, and no one's heard of it. Like, well, I haven't heard of it. You guys haven't heard of it, because usually like something like this comes up, I usually, share it with you guys. Be like, all right, have you guys heard about this? Do you knew anything about it? And then the question comes up, okay, well, where did you hear this from? And I think that's the tipping point, because a lot of these people, and we're talking a lot about the vaccine stuff that's coming up, because people are just denying it and they're throwing it out there. No one's questioning like where you're getting this information. But as soon as we do, it's like, okay, what's your source? Then you see that backing up, that backpedaling, like, oh, whoa, wait, okay, I have to go find it. And then it usually comes out as a meme, which if you show me a fucking meme, just stop, like delete, block, you're done. Don't argue with me on a fucking meme. That's just stupid. But if you're going to give me paper, here we go. Tim's red card already. Wow. Hey, wait, you're not allowed to do that on my show.
It was symbolic.
Okay.
Not to you.
Flag on the play. But yeah, and then when you do see the sources, when you do find those sources, and then we start digging into it, and you find out, okay, your statements are not true, and that leads to other things that I've written down. Sharing without verifying. That's another common thing that comes up, where, especially with social media, it's very easy to see a headline, see a clickbait headline, and say, oh, that conforms or agrees with my preconceived notions, my narrative. So therefore, I'm going to share that. I'm not even going to fact check it.
Oh, I have such a story when we get to me. Okay.
So I see this a lot, and I have spent way too much time when I see this, especially if it's friends of mine. When I see a friend doing it, I'm like, all right, you know what? Something's not right about this. Let me look into it. And then within a couple minutes, I can usually provide references and say, what you shared is not true. This is fact checking. Here's the links. Here's, the sources. What you shared is not true. You might want, my story. Thank you for saying that, Dave, because it just popped into my head. There was a woman that I know on social media. She had shared something when there was the Black Lives Matter movement and the riots that were happening. There was a news story where it looked like a Vietnam Veterans Memorial. The Vietnam Veterans Memorial in D.C. was trashed. Like, there was graffiti all over it. And she shared the link. And I looked at it, and I've been to that monument several times. I know what it looks like, and it didn't look right in the picture. So when I started looking into it, found out that it was a mural that was painted somewhere in California, and that the story had happened months prior to any of the riots or any of the movements or anything. So she had shared it, condemning like the people in the streets, and just condemning people that she was blaming the wrong person. That's what I'm trying to get at. And I provided the information for her, and that actually ended well, because she was like, oh shit, I was wrong. And she took it down. But that's the danger, I think, of sharing before verifying, and Bob put up a good link here. Snopes. Is Snopes really true? Yeah, go to Snopes. But Snopes is often a good website for fact checking something, and there's plenty more. So this time I'm going to pass it off to Tim.
Yes.
So sharing without verifying. What are your thoughts?
That's a paddling.
All right, we're in the spanking now.
That's a spanking, yeah.
This
sharing
just
without
took
verifying.
a turn.
That's definitely a timeout. That's like a long timeout. I while we were writing that, you kind of came across it. I tried, while you were talking about it, you kind of hit on a subject that made me think. I was writing it down when you said it, and that was confirmation bias. And I think probably confirmation bias is like a cold-hearted asshole, really. When you find some information that looks like it agrees with your already confirmed, at least what you want to be true, what you believe to be true. I kind of think I would even go as far as to say probably a lot of people that share misinformation or disinformation or share that type of information without fact checking it probably aren't even like trying to be harmful or deceitful, and probably actually believe what they're doing might be sharing good information, and that goes for me too. So I can't say that other people have the probability or tendency to do that. Sorry, the Irish cream's kicking in.
Nice.
But I'm certainly not above making that same type of error. So you just, if it's something that you really believe in, and you want to share and you want to get that type of information out, I think it would be very beneficial to always have your source and have an actual source, so that when you share that information or want to say where you got that type of information, or why you think that information is worth sharing to other people and how other people might benefit from it. Right. It would be good to have an actual credible source to share it with.
Good. Dave?
Okay. Sharing without verifying. Here comes a fun story. And it is, again, it's COVID related, just because that's a lot of what's going on right now. And so there was somebody who posted that there was a debate on Facebook on a news story about if there is asymptomatic transfer of COVID. So this person posted a news article from a questionable news source that referenced a meta-analysis that was done in a medical journal. So they're going through saying, hey, this proves right here there is no asymptomatic transfer of the virus. It's absolutely not true. Open the state up. Everybody go to the bars. Stop keeping us down. The man is destroying our lives. And I thought, okay, well, let me go look that up, because all the journal articles I've seen kind of flash through on the updates, and I follow a lot of public health journal article publications because of the work I'm in. So all the ones I saw pop up, everyone before that said there's certainly the possibility of asymptomatic transfer, and most people and spread, and they think that's the main reason how it's spreading and so fast. So I'm like, well, this just doesn't sound right. So I went and looked up the article from the news, which I then found the actual journal article. So I went to the primary source, and what the news article had said was misinterpreting and not providing some details and nuances of what the journal article said. So after about 100 messages back and forth, I posted a couple other studies that refuted what this person had said. And they came back and they said, oh, so we're going to trust what the Chinese say now? Because some of the studies were out of Wuhan, China, where the virus originated. And I had a laugh, and I'm like, listen, dumb fuck, the one you were arguing about was based 100% in China. Maybe next time you should go and check your sources and check your primary sources before you share something. And then I just typed and I laughed and I'm like, all your credibility is out the window at this point. You're basically telling me what I posted had a couple Chinese studies in it out of all the worldwide ones that were listed. You're telling me we can't believe the Chinese, but yet you were sharing something from a Chinese study.
Right.
So I'm going without verifying. I mean, it's sharing without checking. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And I'm sorry, but as much as we all love the media these days, they don't always get it right. You have to go and read the primary source of the journal article yourself. Yeah, I was lit up. I think that was the day I think I first started cussing back and forth with Tim and Kenny. I'm like, motherfucking goddamn son of a bitch. I was so irritated. Anyway, that's my story. So definitely make sure you verify before you share and go to primary sources if you can find them.
That's good. That covers the question here from a YouTuber, NTR Tenme. Netter Tenme. I don't know if that's supposed to say something. I'm not sure. But Snopes is a good place. Primary sources, like you said, Dave. I mean, that's always go to the primary sources. When if an article references a academic paper or a book or whatever, go to that source. And like you found out, like sometimes when you go to that source, you find out that, okay, this article was not true to the actual academic paper or study. He twisted the facts and left out some stuff that was important, that changed the context of what was being studied. So you definitely have to go to primary sources to figure out what's going on. There's some fact-checking websites out there. I don't have the list in front of me. I really should have, since we were talking about this. But usually that's what I do. I go to the sources. I call the sources. I'm working on like a investigation now, which took place in Hawaii, and I'm actually in contact with people in Hawaii. I've been on the phone and email with people, because I'm going to the primary sources. I'm tracking down the individuals that actually were part of this event. So definitely that's what you want to do. When it comes to medical stuff, I usually go like the CDC first to see what's going on, what they have.
Which,
and then go from there.
Unfortunately, you have a lot of people that say the CDC is no longer credible. So anything you post there, they're not going to believe anyway, because they're a damn joke anyway. Like, really? Right. Compared to the Facebook medical degree that you got? Whatever.
Yeah. And there's,
I mean, that's hard to argue when you're citing a very credible, well-respected group, and it just gets shot down.
And that's for me, when everything you're doing is shooting it down, is being shot down, for me, that's time to walk away. It really comes down to that. I'm not going to keep fighting because I'm wasting my time. We're wasting our time. Because if you're not going to accept it, if you have an agenda, you're only believing what you want to believe, I'm going to walk away. And it doesn't mean you win. It just means I'm tired of your fucking shit. Just shut the fuck up. I'm done with you. And that's it. And sometimes it comes to a point where I'm so done with you. Like, I don't want anything to do with you, especially if you're a danger to society. And that's something we talked about on the side, is that when the information you're putting out there could potentially hurt people, in my eyes, you become a danger to society as a whole, and I want nothing to do with you. So just want to put that out there.
Well, I started to say, to kind of bring up, like, at what point do you cut the rope?
Right.
I mean, when their argument is based on that this medical facility or this medical journal or this organization, WHO or CDC, when their argument is they can't be trusted. I mean, at what point do you not see the writing on the wall with sometimes a debate that really isn't even a debate when it's at that point? I've had that happen where they just say that the source, the medical source or the journal source or the scientific source, the argument isn't even, they could have got it wrong. They're not in it. They're not credible. The whole facility,
right.
Everything about it is skewed and poisoned and no longer can be trusted.
What's the old phrase, like one bad apple spoils the whole barrel or bushel, or I'm not up on my phrases.
Yeah, and I'm certainly not going to say that the CDC or some other organization like that hasn't gotten something wrong. Right. The difference is, I'm going to wager, is if the CDC or the WHO organization if they get something wrong, they're going to retract it and they're going to put on
Here's
there.
the problem then. People go back and point that out, that they were wrong before, so they're probably wrong now, and we can't believe a damn thing they say.
Yeah.
Which tells me they don't understand how medicine and science and research works at all.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
Science as a whole is a self-correcting methodology. That's it. It tests something, it studies something, it puts out information, and then restudies it. And if new information comes up, they adjust. They adjust their worldview, and we get more information. We get a different view of something. It's not, none of this stuff is quote unquote carved in stone. It's not. We know stuff, but if new information comes up, we might know something different, and we change with that. And I guess that's a hard concept to understand, and I get it, because I used to be on that other side. Like, as a ghost hunter, I used to be on that other side. Like, oh, fucking science doesn't know everything. They don't want to talk about this shit. They're afraid of this because they don't know.
Yeah,
and science hasn't caught up with it yet.
Yeah, but the answer to everything was always like, well, science doesn't know everything.
And for Carol, your question here. So she asked us, do you have examples of this in parapsychology and paranormal? So I'll leave the parapsychology to Dave, because that's his area. But for the paranormal, I mean, this kind of stuff, I mean, overall, what we've been talking about so far is rampant throughout. I mean, you can apply this kind of this bad research method with all of the gadgets that are out there. I mean,
that was the very first thing that came to my mind.
There you go. All the gadgets, the Xbox Connect, the EMF meters, K2 meters, the REM pods, the whatever, all of them. This applies to all of it. The ideas out there when you have experts, quote unquote experts, that do their like paranormal podcasts and stuff, and they come on and they confidently state, like, this is what a ghost is. This is how they interact with the environment. This is this. When they state all this stuff, it's false information. There's nothing to support it. And it goes into this bad research methods, because it's like, how do you know this? They don't. And when you start questioning, then it comes up to, well, we know it. We just know that, or it's our opinion, or this and that. And it falls back on the I guess, the default explanations that are just bullshit. I mean, it comes down to it's just bullshit. So, I mean, I don't know if you have specific examples in parapsychology, Dave, that you can.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. One that would overlap the paranormal into parapsychology is this whole EMF thing, that ghosts are made of EMF, that a reading between 2 and 8 is paranormal. Well, where the hell did you get that? And you read any ghost hunting book or listen to a lot of the ghost hunting podcasts, they accept it as fact. The problem is when you start digging into it, you find that it's probably based on studies by, Michael Persinger and some others. And there is some studies out there. The problem is those studies didn't say that ghosts are made of EMF and can affect the equipment. What they said is there could potentially be a correlation between anomalous experiences in the lab and in the field that could be due to certain types of electromagnetic fields. It's not that ghosts are there and they're made of them. They're saying that it could be something natural, and it's just having some sort of, your body's picking it up as some sort of like ambiguous stimuli that it doesn't know what to do with.
Right.
So that's just one example where they've taken part of the science and just totally bastardized it and misinterpreted it, and now they're running with it. And everybody who runs around and finds a stray EMF, well, they think is a stray EMF, which probably is not a stray EMF, thinks that there's a ghost running around.
Yeah.
And then this whole idea, even on ghost hunters, where they run around, they're like, oh, we're debunking, we found a 200 milligauss EMF. It's whatever, a fear cage. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, most of the studies, if you knew what you're talking about, and you actually went back to those studies, you'd find out that it has nothing to do with how high it is. It's the temporal, it's the time and amplitude, the height, the peaks and valleys of the variation. So again, it's just another example of pulling in paranormal into work that actual parapsychologists and neuroscientists have done, and they've totally screwed it up. And nobody goes back and looks at the original journal articles and the studies to say, hey, what is this all about?
I think, and I'm going to stereotype here, so forgive me. It's not all ghost hunters, but I do find a pattern that sometimes ghost hunters automatically think themselves a instant scientist as soon as they add a black shirt to their wardrobe. They put a black shirt on with their team logo and they're automatically a scientist, where they believe that they know everything there is to know, and that they can understand things. I mean, EMF meters, I still look it up. Like, even though I work with them a lot and I've tested them, I've played with them, I've wrote articles about them, whenever I go back to it, I still go back and read up on them to understand and familiarize myself with it again. Like, how does this work? And how does this work with the environment? And I think the big problem is this instant scientist attitude that we sometimes see is saying, oh, well, I can interpret the results of this gadget. I know how to confidently and accurately interpret the results, and therefore tell you what they mean, i.e., ghosts. But that's not the case. That's an overinflated ego, which I know something about. So, but that's an overinflated ego, thinking you know a lot more than you actually do. And I mean, when it comes to interpreting things, I still don't. I mean, if I don't know anything, one of the things I do is send it to you guys and say, what do you guys know about this? You know, do you have an experience? Because I know I've gone to both of you. I know I've gone to Tim with behavioral problems. Like, hey, you know, this is the situation. What's your advice, or what do you think about this? And when it comes to scientific controls or something like that, I'll go to you, Dave. But I mean, it's still, I know that I'm not an expert. And I know that I've studied a lot. I've read a lot. I've studied a lot. I've played a lot. I've tested and all that shit. But I'm not an expert, so I'm still looking outside my wheelhouse.
I think we do. You know, we'll take that stuff, and if we don't know or we don't know anything, we'll reach out to our contacts. And obviously, if I get something on photos or videos, I am not an expert, so I'll send it to Kenny. And then if it's, you know, psychology related testimony, anything that Tim deals with, I'll send it to Tim. And at least I know that even if they don't know, they'll admit they don't know, and they might actually go to people or go to references and sources that they'll get the right answer.
Right. So
you all have black shirts on?
Well, Dave, you got a blue shirt, right?
Yeah, it's kind of gray.
It's kind of gray. Okay. I have a black, but I have Area 51. That's what I have. This is my official from Nevada, from Area 51. This is my official shirt. So, you know, it's like radioactive.
Most likely has a tracking device in it so the aliens can find
it. Probably. Yeah. So another thing that I had listed, we're doing pretty good. I mean, we're about a half hour in, so this is good. Let's see. This is a minor one, I think, maybe, but it's rushing to be the first to post or tell the world. And I see this often where as soon as some story, like breaking news, and everybody wants to be the first one to put it out there on social media, you know, like, look at me, I'm the first one that figured it out. And that really complements the previous thing about sharing without verifying, because it's like, instead of taking the time to verify stuff, you want to get it out there as soon as possible. Like, oh, I have to share that with my 20,000 followers right away because they're in dire need to know what I think I know. And this is actually something that comes up when I start researching articles. Some of the articles that I've written are kind of minor, and it's like, there's a bunch of people that have already put out little fluff pieces, you know, little columns here and there within a day or two, sometimes within hours. Um, Me, on the other hand, like I usually do it like within a week and a half because I'm taking my time, I'm verifying the facts, I'm waiting because one thing I've learned, especially following the media, the initial information is usually always wrong. It's usually always wrong or mostly inaccurate, and you have to wait until hours later until it's like, okay, now we know that this was wrong and this happened. So I'm constantly waiting. And going back to earlier in the show, I'm trying to contact primary sources. I'm trying to get that witness on the phone with me so I can verify, did you actually say this? I'm trying to get experts that are in the area and say, hey, what do you think? Is this a common thing in your area? And the like. So I guess being the first is not the best. It's not always the best. It actually can make you look stupid sometimes. So I'll pass it off. Let's say, I think Dave, you're first this time.
I'll defer to Tim because I think I interrupted him last time.
No, that's fine. It's good. I have a good buzz, so it's all fun.
All right.
There was my first thought on this was there was an irritating, and maybe this is going to be not so directly related, but there was an irritating habit that there was a TV ghost hunting show, and
Ghost Adventures.
No, they weren't that irritating. That's
okay.
Yeah, that's horrible. But they would have this habit of everywhere that they would investigate throughout the show, it was a constant theme that they were the first to do this place, the first to come up with this equipment on how they're going to verify it's a ghost, not see what's going on, but verify it was a ghost. There was always this underlying tone of this show of being the first was so important. It got to where that alone made it unwatchable. I had a lot of hope in it because the basis of their show was very, for lack of a better word, technical. Like it looked like they could have actually had a good idea in there. But they would go to an abandoned mine and they'd say, we're the first to investigate in a mine. And they would go to a tree house. Well, we're the first to do a tree house. That type, I think, gets a little old and very irritating. Right. I think wanting to be the first also is a very particular behavioral trait. Because being the first comes with lots of rewards to be known as the person that broke the story. And I kind of think at some point, there's rewards in, there's rewards in money, but there's also rewards in notoriety. Mm-hmm. And notoriety can be a very big motivator. And I think skipping fact checking to get that notoriety and get your name out there is one of the easiest things you can do to make mistakes like that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, notoriety. I mean, we've seen this. We've all seen this in our illustrious career as ghost hunters, where it's how many conventions. I'll put it like this: how many conventions or conferences have you been to where you heard a group say, well, we're going to film a pilot, or we're going to be the next TV show, or we're doing a script, or we're filming and for a while, and we still see it, people just want that notoriety. They want to be famous. They want to, well, we certainly know someone that wants to be famous. But that's
desperately.
But yeah, I mean, you see a lot of people that just want to be on TV. They want to have their name known. And they will go to any lengths to get that. And I think they sacrifice credibility and honesty sometimes for that fame. And that's a shame. That's a shame. Yep. Dave, any comments before I move on?
Yeah, real quick. I'm going to take a little different track here. A lot of people that say they were first doing something or going somewhere, if you look into it, they were not the first. They're just the first to verbalize it and to put it out there. And a lot of that, I can give numerous examples of that. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that ghost hunters and TV shows are doing that they claim to be the first to do this. We're the first to do this. We're the first to do that. I actually had our paranormal group way back in the day had a run-in with somebody that was on one of the original very popular ghost hunting shows, and that may or may not be part of the title of that show. And he claimed he was the first to use this equipment, and he was the first to develop the software. And I think 3 or 4 of us from our group were in the audience, and all of a sudden, somebody else in our group beat me to it. Her hand goes up. Excuse me? Did you say you were the first to do that? Yeah, I'm the first to use this. I'm the first to do this. Really? Because we've been using that exact same piece of equipment and the software provided by the company for 2 years. So just because they say they're first doesn't necessarily mean they are first. But obviously, you know, if you're in sales and marketing, that's a powerful thing, because even if you're not the first to have discovered it or doing it, if you're the first to bring it out and make it known, that has a lot of influence on how you're perceived and how you and your company and your products are perceived. So I can understand why they do it from like a sales and marketing perspective, but as far as from being truthful and honest and actually being the first and thinking you're the first, not necessarily always the case.
I agree. I find it to be just more of a marketing tactic than anything else. Because you're right. If you want to be the first, if you keep promoting you're the first, then it seems like, oh, well, this person is famous and they're getting into all these places for the first time and nobody else is. And it's ridiculous.
I see you have a comment up from Susan. This is a good one. Also being the first is the way of calling dibs on the story. Possibly others will back off because they know you are covering it. That's a really good point, really important. I'd like to add to that a little bit, in that the first time you get some information out, it usually sticks, and it's a lot harder to put out other information to refute it and correct it.
Yeah.
Anchor fallacy.
Yeah. I found actually when I started digging with my my buddy Mr. Baggins, when I started digging into some of the stories associated with him and people involved, I found that a lot of the places, not only did he, claim to be there first, but he was the only one, because after he left, the management of the location, of several locations, hated the way he treated them. So these locations would stop letting ghost hunters come in. And this is from former staff of his that were telling me this, where like, I guess he treated them so bad and was such a dick that they didn't want anything to do with other ghost hunters, and it kind of spoiled it. Local ghost hunters, because especially in the Las Vegas area, I know of at least 2 ghost hunting teams in that area who have contacted me and said that they couldn't get into certain places because Ghost Adventures were there. They made these claims, they were false, they told false histories, made stuff up, and the location doesn't want anyone in there anymore. So, yeah. It fucking sucks. All right. So moving on, I have 2 more points. We're doing great on time. One point is, I love this. This is more on the conspiracy theory side, where information they don't want you to know.
Huh.
I see this quite often. In the last week, I've actually been told this several times. And it has to do with the vaccine and COVID. Again, I know this topic tonight is a little off the paranormal. I mean, we're at least trying to blend it, but unfortunately, a lot of these instances, especially with recent times, unfortunately, they just focus on current events. And this is a skeptical show, so we can talk about that. But yeah, I've been told several times that I'm wrong because I'm guessing they mean the government. They don't want me to know, or they won't tell you everything because, you're just a public. You're not going to know everything. My response to that is, if the government, don't want you to know, you won't fucking know. That's it. I can't say it any plainer. I can't be any more blunt. If they don't want you to fucking know something, you're not going to know about it. If they do, you're going to know. And of course, if you want to make shit up and spread it around, spread this misinformation around, yes, you're going to know about it. And I mean, I can easily start a rumor saying, hey, they don't want you to know this, but, and then follow with some stupid shit that I can spew together a bunch of random scientific sounding words and make you believe that, a vaccine doesn't work or COVID is a hoax and all this other shit that we deal with. But I can't stand seeing that because that really fires me up because, again, it comes down to the first question. Who is they?
Mm-hmm.
And if you say the government, government's a big place. Lots of people work there.
Big house.
Who is actually saying this? Where are you getting this information from? And that's where everything starts going downhill. So, Tim, any comments?
Yeah, I have, I like to use when people ask me about my idea of what a ghost is, I like to have the idea and try to explain that to me that a ghost is like a placeholder for information or events that happen that people don't understand. So it's just easy to say it was a ghost. Well, in dealing with conspiracy theories, especially when it's conspiracy theories and rationalization of conspiracy theories. I was actually writing it down as we were talking. It's like it's a reconciliation or a way to reconcile missing or confusing pieces of information. So if you have this idea and you're trying to formulate, what is the cause or effect of whatever you're looking into, and you don't have the information, you can't get the information, you don't know where to get the information, or if the information that you are getting is confusing to you or contradictory to what you're already believing, then a way to reconcile why you are getting wrong information or contradictory information is because somebody doesn't want you to have the correct information, or somebody's keeping the correct information from you. So it's almost like I don't want to say it's like a self-preservation, but only for your brain, for how you're thinking. So it's a way to keep your cognitive ideas intact. There's a word, cognitive dissonance, probably. It's a way to protect what you're thinking. And with missing information or information that you don't understand or information that is contradictory, I think conspiracy theories can only pop up like that. So the most recent one that I really kind of got into was someone, and we're friends, and so it wasn't a bad thing. I commented probably 3 or 4 times and was like, yeah, shit, I need to quit. This is not going to go anywhere. But it was 5G and 5G and the ability to control your brain with 5G and the chip that you're going to get in the vaccine. And so you know how it goes. Like, oh, well, tell me, how did you acquire that information? And just like you said, it's information that they got from some source on the internet, but couldn't give it to me or back up any information. So, yeah, at some point you're just like, I'm over my head on this one, and you just kind of back out. But conspiracy theories are actually as interesting to me as paranormal things, only because I like the idea of how they work on the human mind and why they work and why they're so concrete for people. Like, I really want to understand that mechanism of how people get into one and get stuck so bad. I don't know how, and I don't know why, but I do like the concept of it. I would love to learn more about it.
Basically how they get down. Oh my God, I hear myself. Wow, that's weird. Basically how they go down the rabbit hole and they can't find their way out.
Yeah, well,
That's
there must be a reward for that. There must be a
right.
reward. There must be a reason to stay in that track. There must be something that they are obtaining that is rewarding for that. Um, I don't know, but
I think it
conspiracy.
allows them to maintain some sort of, at least in their mind, a position of credibility or authority without having to prove anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could be as much as that it's something that they're afraid of. So 5G, if you think about it, 5G is if somebody is telling you that 5G is terrible and very bad for you, and you become afraid of it. If you search and try to learn about it and you want to stop it. So I don't know. I'm not even sure how I'm trying to say this. More information that you find that you can't find just proves that it is bad for you. So yeah, if you can't find anything to prove it or go against it, therefore it must prove your idea, your previous or your current position on it.
I think with that kind of situation, it comes down to how you search for something too. Because if you have this idea that, I'll keep going with the example of 5G. If you have this idea that 5G is harmful, you might type into Google 5G side effects or harmful. And of course, it's going to direct you to those kind of sites. And you're going to get a lot of these sites that promote this kind of shit without any kind of scientific background on it, where it's promoting like it causes cancer or whatever. And you're going to start reading that. And the more and more you read it, the more you're convinced. It reaffirms your belief already. What is that called? Shit. There's a term for that.
Confirmation bias?
Confirmation bias. Yeah, I think so. Selection bias. Yeah. There's another word I'm thinking of. I don't remember. Where you just it reaffirms your. I don't know. I don't remember. I'm going to keep moving on though. But it's basically you're going to keep reading the same stuff. You're going to get caught in this circle where you're just reading the same kind of material.
Selective. Shit. What is it? Information bias, confirmation bias. I know there's a term.
I keep forgetting what it is, but
I'm already out of alcohol.
Keep drinking your coffee.
it was in the coffee, so I'm out.
I mean, if you search for that, yes. There was somebody told me about the idea that one of the vaccines for COVID is bad because they use animal DNA in it. And instead of putting that in like a search engine, like, all right, COVID-19 vaccine, animal DNA. Instead of doing that, I went right to the site, right to the source, the primary source. Okay, what's this doing? Like I went to Pfizer. I went to what's the other one?
Moderna.
Yeah, Moderna. Went to their sites, looked through all the facts, like went through all the information. What's in it? What's part of it? How's it work? And what I was hearing from this other person was not reflected in the information that I found. But if I did a search for the vaccine with animal DNA, I came up with all these other sites that were like new age kind of sites promoting how bad it was. And I was like, that's the key. That's the key. You have to go to basics. You really have to go to basics. Don't put in the horrible sounding things. Go to the basics. Basic information, and start at the beginning, right from the primary source, from the maker. If you have questions about what they have, then you spread out a little bit, but don't go to like, what is it, like naturalnews.com or something like that. These are all bullshit sites. You don't want to go there because they give false information. So let me see. These are great. These I love the chat going in. That's going on here, but let me see. Comment.
I like John. I'm still waiting for my chip from the flu vaccination to sync up with 5G.
Oh, and for anyone that's wondering, I'm scheduled for my first COVID vaccine shot on Thursday. So
Nice.
I'll be getting it in the morning on Thursday. So I'm very excited about that because I'm always worried. I work in the medical field and around. Not only am I around hospital people, but I am sometimes literally working in the operating room while there's a patient on the table open. So I'm always worried about everything that I do, and not only just for me, but coming home because then I put my family at risk, and I definitely don't want to do that. So yeah, I'm very excited that I'm going to get it Thursday morning. So the last thing that I have, which is good because we're coming up on the hour, we're almost going to do the commercial here. But the last thing I have is ignoring information that doesn't fit with your preferred narrative. And this is where I get into confirmation bias, subjective validation. So just to explain those, if you're not sure, confirmation bias is pretty much selecting information that agrees with you, but ignoring what doesn't. And that's basically, I use it all the time when I talk about psychics, where you go have a psychic reading and you remember the hits, but you ignore the misses. And therefore, it looks like the reading was awesome, and so on point when it really wasn't. And then selective validation is defined as considering statements correct if it has a personal meaning or significance to you. Therefore, you put more value on something that already agrees with what you believe, and then putting less value or no value to something when it contradicts what you believe. And this whole idea of ignoring information, basically it comes, I see it a lot with headlines. And I call the people headliners because they usually see an article, they see the headline, and that's it. Like, they're like, oh, cool. Like, this proves my point. A bunch of people died because they took this vaccine. So I'm going to share that, and I'm going to put it in there as proof. But when you read the fucking article, you realize that within the first paragraph, it explains that the number of people that actually died, especially, like, I'm actually talking about a real event, the trials, the trials for the Pfizer vaccine, where it was reported that 6 people died during the trials. When you read the actual content of the article, you find out that 4 of the 6 people were given the placebo. So right away, they did not die of the vaccine because they were not given the vaccine. And then when you read the next line in the same paragraph,
Dave's dying.
you realize that the other 2 people that passed away, they did an investigation. It was not related to the vaccine, but it fell actually in line with the normal death rates of the area where they were testing.
That's an interesting point, and I've actually pointed this out to a few people on social media in certain exchanges.
Really?
It's amazing how every death is not due to the virus, but every vaccine death is due to the vaccine.
Right.
I mean, talking about a perfect example of what you're talking about there. I don't care if it was control group or the active group, they died. And that's due to the vaccine. This person got a shot, had a heart attack 2 days later. That was the vaccine. They took the vaccine, they got COVID, and they died. I'm like, what the? Come on, seriously. And it's just, it's so out of control.
Yeah.
And it's everywhere. And it's not just for the vaccine or COVID. It's for paranormal. It's for everyday life. I mean, and we got to realize that when you're arguing with somebody and you have a certain point you want to make, yeah, you're going to probably go and look for information that makes your point. And the other people will do the same. However, I think it's the quality and the source of that information that you're picking to make your point. But I've noticed no matter how quality it is, I mean, come on, New England Journal of Medicine, Journal of the American Medical Association, when somebody tells you those are crap journals and all they do is publish the mainstream media's message, I'm like, fuck it, I'm out. You're done. I can't do it. But the more you push on that, then you get the backfire effect where they really dig in even more. And it's at that point, I think we talked about this earlier on in the show is, hey, you're going to lose the battle or it's not worth wasting your time anymore.
Right. Tim, anything?
I agree with that. And I want to say, Dave brought up a really good analogy that I had not thought about, but when he verbalized it, it was really good, was, the conspiracy or the allegations that every death is now because of COVID. But yet, every death following or injury or hospitalization following the vaccine is because of the vaccine. And
can't have it both ways, people.
Right.
Yeah. That was really good. As a matter of fact, I wrote that shit down because I can't wait to use it. I'm even going to put a little asterisk, and at the bottom of my next post, I'm going to be like, Dave Schumacher. See.
I'm sure somebody else smarter thought of it before me, but since I said it first, it's me. I own it. It's mine.
That's right.
Put it on a t-shirt.
Well, I know, I guess for me, and this, I know I see we're at the hour, so I don't want to go, but too much, but I'd want to add to everything that, everything that we talk about making mistakes and errors in logic and thinking and how we can pick them out. I think it's also as important to remember, no matter who you are, the most important thing to do is to recognize that you are actually vulnerable to making the same mistakes, if not many more, and never really be solid in everything that you are endeavoring in. So I typically, it's a hard thing to do, and if you do it correctly, it is very difficult. It's like if you've ever seen someone play chess by themselves or against themselves, if you've ever tried it, it's very difficult because you have a tendency to want to go, okay, well, I'm going to move this and I'm going to move this over there. It's almost like training your brain to think, to let go of what part of you is thinking and then plan strategically on what the information is in front of you. That's a long thing to go through, but looking up information that is counter to your current belief or your idea, it's good to always check yourself. It's good to have somebody like Dave and Kenny that I can send information to and let them tell me I'm wrong, which is good because honestly, if you're right all the time, you're wrong. That's stupid, but if you think about it, it makes really good sense. If you're always right, you're wrong.
Right.
You can't be. You just can't be. And anyway, to make it short, always, don't assume everybody else is making a mistake. Always put yourself first as the person that could be making the mistake and work on what you have. And then once you feel solid, then go forward. That's
a hard lesson to learn, I think. To realize you could be the problem, and that's really hard to accept. And I know, it
is hard.
Everyone knows me.
Self-awareness and emotional intelligence is a very powerful thing, and it'll make you a much better person.
Good one, Bob.
It's very difficult. It's hard.
But yeah. Oh. Thanks, honey. Glad my wife is chiming in. Yes, I can be wrong sometimes, and I think that makes us when you realize this, when you realize that you can be wrong, and that like you said, Tim, the first thing you should do is question yourself. Okay, I'm ready to put this out there. I either wrote an article, I did a video that I'm expressing an opinion. I'm presenting facts, what I think of facts. Am I right? And I've done this several times, and you guys can vouch for this. I've written an article where I'm like, let me send it to you guys, and you guys read it and tell me what you think. Did I cover all the bases? Did I leave something out? Did I not explain something good enough? And I look forward to that feedback, good or bad. It's always much better when you say, "Oh, great job." I'm like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, I did a great job." But I do love that criticism if you come back and say, you might want to touch a little bit on this, or hey, here's something that you might want to think of or address. Yes, give it to me, because I want to be better. Because I think when you realize, when you accept the fact that you can be wrong, again, hard to do, but once you do, you become a better person, because you're not paranoid where you're always questioning yourself, but you question yourself enough to say, okay, am I sure of this? Let me double check. Let me triple check. Okay, good. Done. Check that box. Let me go to this one. Check. Yeah, I'm good. And then when you present your evidence or your case or your whatever, you can be confident in what you're doing. Let me go on here. There is a question. I see a Q. How do you all deal with people who believe the disinformation without hitting the backfire effect? Whew. Kill kindness?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. If they really have their heels dug in and they're way out in wackadoo land, that's a really hard thing to do. But those that might have some small glimmer of hope, one of the things I always found successful is to try to either get them to question, somehow lead them along a path that they'll question what they said, or get them into a position to try to explain how they got there. Like, hey, I mean, I'll play this card a lot, and Tim knows this. I've talked about this on our other show with Tim and Kenny. I'll do one of those, I guess I'm not understanding. So can you please help me understand how you got there, or what your thought process is there? And then as they take you through that, it's not so much telling them you're wrong, that's fucking stupid, you're an idiot. It's more of, well, why do you think that? How did you get there? Did you consider this? You're almost leading them down a path to where they convince and sell it to themselves. That's perfect. The only way I can really deal with it. If they're willing to entertain anything beyond some crazy conspiracy theory.
I totally agree, and I like that approach. That's your approach of, can you help me understand? I mean, that's something like
I started out back in the day. What the fuck?
so do I. So did I. I mean,
wait, that's not working.
Like, that's the fuck working. Are you talking about, asshole? But I mean, that's literally in a book that I've read about critical thinking, how to ask the right questions. Really good book, short book, but in it tells you that's the approach to take. Help me understand your point of view.
And if they make a correct statement here or there, even if it's not really huge or impactful to the discussion, I'll acknowledge that. And then, of course, throwing in a little humor and trying to laugh once in a while. And another thing really important, don't make it personal. Try to take yourself and them and anything that refers to you or me, take that out of it. Just remove those words so that it doesn't feel like it's a personal attack and you're personally challenging them.
Right. And I mean, when you do that, I've always had the philosophy of, I'm not just going to tell you. If you have a question and if we're debating this stuff, if I just talk to you or talk at you, facts and figures, you're not listening to me. You're really not. You're thinking about how you're going to respond next. You're not listening. And that's a skill that I've learned, where I listen and then I decide what I'm going to say. Because sometimes, like, they'll say something and I pause because I'm thinking, all right, good. I've listened to everything you said. I'm processing it. Now I'm going to form my response, and then now I'm going to talk. But basically, I don't want to tell you how to think. I want you to think for yourself. So I might ask you questions like, you know, did you actually see that? What did you really see? You know, if you say you saw a ghost at the end of the hallway and they were in Victorian garb, is that really what you saw? Like, think back. What did you see, like the top, the bottom? How did their hair look? Let's look at this a little bit and make them think about it. And if they don't have answers, push them. Like, all right, do you think maybe you didn't see that and you're filling in the gap? I mean, could that be a possibility? Asking questions like that in a polite manner, I think, gets you much further than going, no, you didn't fucking see a ghost. Yeah. There's a definite attitude difference between the two. So with that, Tim, do you have anything to add?
No, maybe a little bit. I thought, I mean, Dave, that was great. That's perfect. It's almost, help me understand.
Okay.
Is one of the best things ever in letting someone talk through. And one other thing that I like to do if I listen to people, and it does a couple things. After I hear somebody tell me something or their position, I try to say, I'm going to say back to you what I heard, and you correct me if I get anything wrong. One, I think it helps convey the message that you are listening to them and hearing them, but it also lets them know what you're hearing, so that if you aren't saying back something that is important to them, you can hear them correct you. So I can say back to you what I heard. So when someone's telling a story or someone's telling you something, what's important to them isn't always important, isn't necessarily what is important to you. And you don't know that. So it's good to hear it. If you say back what you heard, you typically summarize it and you hit the interesting points that are for you. So they can say, well, yes, but also I want you to really remember this part. So you are doing kind of like a conversation respect kind of thing. And you're also sending a message that you're listening to them. And then after that, going into, help me understand, even when it gets to a point where you have when you have information that is contradictory to a point that they're making. I know. You can phrase it like, well, how did this reconcile for this piece of information? So help, because I have this piece of information that's not matching up with what you're telling me. How did you get across this? Help me understand how this is wrong. And I think that's a better way.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I think the bottom line is be nice. Have a conversation. Don't come at them. Like, don't be all come at me, bro. Be nice. Have an intelligent conversation, a civil conversation. Ask questions. Clarify. Get to know their side of the story, because even if they are wrong, I mean, and you could be wrong too. I mean, let's keep that in mind. Going back to what we were talking about a couple of minutes ago.
That's right.
Just keep in mind, both of you can be wrong, and you want to better understand what they're doing, what they're talking about. And if you better understand in this case, an opponent, I mean, because that's usually what a debate is. You have two sides. If you better understand the other side, you are better equipped with dealing with it, dealing with the issue that's coming up. So be nice. So with that, I'm going to say we're going to take a commercial break. It's going to be about a minute or so. And then when we come back, we're going to switch topics a little bit. I'm going to bring on JD, who's in the chat room. He's actually in the green room right now. We're going to bring him on. We're going to talk about a psychic, a celebrity, like a half celebrity psychic, Thomas John, and something that's come up recently with him. So if you guys want to stick around, please do. If you have to bail, let me know. But this is our pee break commercial. So anyone that has to pee, run to your bathroom and do it now.
All right, I'm going to check out. So thanks, Kenny. It was fun.
All right, thanks, Dave.
I'm going to need to.
You're going. Oh, you're going too. You both fucking leaving me, dickheads.
JD's he's got it. He's got this. He's got this. He's a good guy. Enjoy.
All right. Hold on just a second. Let me go to, no, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.
All
Okay.
right. Have a
All
good
right,
night.
let me hit the commercial here, and we are ready. Hey there, my friends. Are you looking to show off your science and skeptical side like these fine people? Then head over to my Teespring store, where you'll find lots of t-shirts, coffee mugs, tote bags, fanny packs. Yes, they are coming back. Face coverings, yoga pants, and even pillows. What? Yes, there's lots of designs. You'll get some cool merch, and the money from your purchases go right back into my research efforts. We all win. So check out Scientific Skepticism at teespring.com. And remember, kids, never stop learning.
Are you tortured by what you see and hear about the paranormal field? Join us as we critically examine and question paranormal claims, science, ghosts, demons, cryptids, UFOs, ghost hunting technology, and much more are all on the table for discussion. 3 Tortured Souls is a video podcast that streams live on Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 Pacific.
3 Tortured Souls.
All right, we are back. Hey, there's JD.
Man, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you good. You actually sound really good. Awesome. All right, so JD, frequent listener, you've been on the show a couple times. Most memorable is from the One Chip Challenge,
Yeah.
which we both survived. So, you're coming on for a specific reason. You actually reached out to me and asked to come on because you wanted to talk about something. So, I'm going to give you the floor. You talk. Tell us what we're talking about.
Okay. So I had reached out to and have worked along with Susan Gerbic in some of the sting operations that she does on psychic mediums.
Right.
And one of the guys that I've kind of been shadowing across different social media channels is Thomas John, who most famous for his 2018 show Seatbelt Psychic. I think he has another show now called like the Thomas John Experience. So I had seen he had posted an event that he was going to be hosting on April 19th. And I'm just going to read here what exactly the press release or whatever it is that he's advertising. I'm going to read it
Okay, good.
verbatim.
Are you reading off the website?
No, I took notes off of it.
Oh, okay.
I copied it down. People can go.
I can share it if you want to.
Yeah. Just to make sure. I want to be very clear that I'm not embellishing anything. Which
There
is
you
what you get. So, for the astonishing low price of $400, this is a workshop that your child can attend. So it says, this is a very special event for children who have lost a loved one. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, get the fuck out. Like, you've got to be kidding me.
Right.
In this intimate event, there will be a maximum of 8 children and one of their guardians. The age requirement is between the age of 5 and 12 years old. Children who are very sensitive to and open to the spiritual world are very encouraged to attend. Typo is his, not mine. The event will open up where Thomas will practice a few mediumship exercises with the children. Then each child will receive messages from their loved one on the other side. So I read that. I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. And before I posted anything online, I kept going back to this link because I was like, there's no way. Like, I have to have misread this. There has to be some kind of mistake on my part, because who in their right mind would advertise something like this?
Right.
So, I brought it to Susan's attention, a lot of other people's, and we were kind of kicking around ideas about, well, what can we do about this? We can't let this go on. Like, this is disgusting. It's immoral. It might not be, illegal in any sense, but right. He certainly shouldn't be allowed to do this. So I noticed that the event is being hosted through Shopify. That's where the payment and stuff's being processed. So I had the idea, well, I wonder if they have any kind of like terms of service. So they do. They have an acceptable use policy, and I read over it. And I certainly think that this violates that acceptable use policy. They have a clause in there about, no exploitation of children, for one. I would argue that this very much, is manipulative and plays with the emotional vulnerabilities of children, especially children who, presumably are either actively in the grieving process or have been through the grieving process, that they've lost a loved one.
Right.
I would also argue that it violates. They have a clause about no false advertising. I don't see how he could produce any kind of conclusive evidence to back up his claim that each of the 8 children will receive a personalized message from a loved one on the other side. How can he guarantee that?
Right.
At the very bottom of the page, there is a claim that says all sales final. But at the same time, to me, if this is what you're advertising in very plain language for your event,
Yeah.
I would think that there ought to be some kind of guarantee backed up with that. But so, I read over the acceptable use policy, and there is a link on Shopify's website where you can report sellers that you believe have violated that policy. So, I typed up strongly worded, but professional. I went through a couple different drafts. I'm pretty sure that the first draft had something in there about medium's just cheap carny trash, and you you also have to include the link specific to the seller that you're reporting. So in this case, I had to include the URL link for this advertised event. And I just kind of started putting it on blast on social media, people that I'm friends with, pages that I follow, letting them know, hey, this is what he's got scheduled for April 19th. And this is what I've done about it. If anybody's interested, I strongly encourage, read what he's advertising, read their acceptable use policy. If you agree with me, think the same way that I do, that it's a violation of that policy.
Right.
I would strongly encourage you to write Shopify a letter, and let them know. My thinking is, he's like a D-grade celebrity, right? Like, even in the psychic medium world, he's not a big name player. He doesn't have a lot of clout or any kind of connections. If even like 50 to 100 people sent messages to Shopify complaining about this, I feel like Shopify can't ignore that. Like,
Right.
for one person, that's got to, there has to be a threshold where there's enough people writing about this, we have to look into it. So my hope is, if enough people would write in, they'll either, cancel the event or hopefully delist him from the shop.
So I want to get into a little bit of background, just in case people are not familiar with what we're talking about. So Thomas John is allegedly a psychic. Allegedly, yes. And I know of him mostly from the work of Susan Gerbic, who is in the chat room. Hey, Susan. Good to see you. But she has done a lot of writing, a lot of investigation on his alleged psychic abilities. The most famous of which has appeared in the New York Times. We actually did a sting, and I was part of a sting operation. I wasn't part of this one, but I was part of one here. But in the New York Times article, the author, Jack Hitt, right? I think that's what it is. Yeah, Jack Hitt. He wrote, he contacted Susan. He talked to Susan, got information from her. He actually came along with us when we went to Fraser, Matt Fraser, who is another psychic in the East Coast. But Thomas John is a psychic that was caught like literally red-handed, not literally, but red-handed doing hot readings. And
Mhm.
for us, hot readings are when you know information, when you look up information beforehand.
Mhm.
And I believe the case in this case, that Susan and Mark Edward investigated, that he was looking up, Thomas John was looking up their Facebook pages, which
Mhm.
happened to be fake profiles. He looked up those profiles and got information off of
Mhm.
social media and then regurgitated during the live show, which is how they caught him. He also he did a show called Seatbelt Psychic,
Mhm.
which Susan also wrote about. And you
Yes.
find out that like her and her team, her Guerrilla Skeptics team, are amazing.
Mhm.
And they watched repeated episodes of this show. And it's a horrible show. I've watched it. It fucking sucks.
So,
It's just horrible. And
so
they were able. Go ahead.
well, I was gonna say, fun fact about that was I actually watched through a couple episodes of his show trying to get uh, photographic evidence for that article, and yeah, we long story short is they totally busted the claims for that show were not at all true. You know, the idea that he's picking up random people, and I think he poses as like an Uber driver, right?
Yeah.
And no, the same video after video, the same locations were popping up,
Right.
and lots of other shady, like kind of editing techniques where you'll see, and you have to watch the show and pause it at the right moment. Which if you're watching this as a TV show, nobody would ever do that. But you'll see where they'll take video of him talking to the passenger and they'll splice it. So you'll see in the background one location, and then it'll look as though he's driving somewhere else. And then in the next scene, it'll be back to that same location. So you can tell that they're kind of cutting and pasting things, putting them together. And it ended up in we noticed that he was picking up people from these preset locations.
Yeah, and they were able to demonstrate, with different passengers that he was basically going in a circle.
If I remember correctly, I think Susan even found, and I could be, I hope she jumps in and corrects me on this, but I wanted to say with the Seatbelt Psychic, some of those people were actually paid actors, and she found their IMDb pages.
Right. There's a question I want to address here. Chanel asks, can you be accused of defamation of character for this, JD? I agree with your review of him, though. He needs to be stopped. So as far as I know, and I'll chime in first, but as far as I know, no, you cannot. You're expressing an opinion, and not only are you expressing an opinion, if we're stating absolute facts, we will have something to back that up. And
I was going to say, whatever he would counter, I feel like the onus would be on him to prove that our allegations weren't true. Can you prove that you didn't know these people, that they weren't actors, that you didn't pick them up from preset locations? I'm not saying that he's not a medium. I'm not saying that he's not psychic, but
I am.
Well,
I totally am.
Having seen some of the alleged readings that he does, I'm not impressed. So if he's got, any kind of better tricks to pull out, I'd like to see them. Even now, when he does readings, because he does live readings on Instagram, and then I think he was doing Facebook. I don't know if he is now, but it's interesting to me knowing that he was caught before hot reading off of Facebook, knowing that he uses both platforms, Instagram and Facebook, to do these readings live. And, another thing that I've noticed too, which I've kind of thought about, is he often has guests on his show, or he'll do readings with another live psychic, another guest that also claims to be psychic, claims to be a medium. So I'm sitting here wondering, well, this person's doing most of the talking. He's over here on this other screen. what's he doing while they're doing talking?
Right.
I don't think it's inconceivable that one or both of them is communicating back and forth with the other. And if you look at the comment section while he's doing these videos, people are more than happy to just throw information out.
Right.
They'll tell him, "Hey, tell me what my dead brother is saying. Is my dead brother here?" So regardless of whether or not he genuinely is a medium or genuinely is a psychic, it's more than easy for him to pass himself off as one. People make it. And, some people don't even realize, some people probably don't even realize how much information he could milk from their social media profiles,
Right.
Just
I've done it plenty of times
Mhm.
where you go through, simple background checks. I do have a membership to one of the primary background check services. So I can find out information about pretty much anyone. But if your profile on social media is open and public, wow. You can find out a lot of information. When I did an episode of Squaring the Strange with Ben Rafford, Celestia Ward, and it was about following psychics in real time. And I followed a psychic that was doing a missing person case in my area. When I looked up the missing person on social media, all of the predictions that the psychic made, I found on Facebook. I just scrolled. It's time consuming. You have to go back months, maybe a year or two, but it's all there and it's right there. And I think the thing people have to realize is that you are not as private as you think you are. You can go to extremes, but there's still information about you out there.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm not a lawyer. I cannot give any legal advice or counsel. So I want to make that disclaimer. But if he's just given an opinion, then so be it. And we actually haven't, besides saying that he's not psychic and
I think I think he's scum. I think he's an asshole. I think he's a liar.
And that's your opinion. So you are free to state your opinion. It just comes down to when it gets into legal action, as far as I know, and again, I'm not a lawyer, but as far as I know, it gets into trouble when you cause a loss. So if they actually experience a loss of income because of what you said, then there are grounds for him to try to sue you. But
I
don't.
If I remember correctly, I think he got into some legal trouble recently because he didn't pay. He didn't pay somebody. I don't remember.
It was a marketing company. Yes.
I was going to say talent agency, but yeah, I think you're right.
It was a marketing company because he was arrested. He was arrested for something, and he hired a marketing company to pretty much fluff his image, to re-image himself.
So back from what I know, back in 2009, he pled guilty to felony fraud because what he was doing was he was posting fake apartment ads, and then he would collect a security deposit on them and, bail.
Right.
So, that was a while ago. I don't know if he was doing anything since then that got in trouble, but yeah, if he can't afford to pay that marketing company that he contracted, I'm not afraid of him, forking over legal fees to come after me.
Right. And Susan, if you're out there, you want to, if you want to correct anything that we're saying, let me know. I'll bring you on, and you can actually chime in a little bit on what this. Because Susan, if you want to know a good source on all the Thomas John bullshit, Susan is the most excellent source because she's written a dozen or so articles on his antics.
She probably has more grounds for being worried than I do.
And for everyone in the chat room, I posted a bunch of leaks. That rum is starting to take effect. I posted a bunch of links. One was to the site that I had shared earlier. His actual buy the $400 bullshit, which I want to mention is via Zoom. It's not like an in-person thing. It's not like come out and meet me and meet and greet kind of bullshit. You get a little care package or anything. It's fucking Zoom. So you get on a video conference, you and your guardian. So a child between 5 and 12 gets on with their guardian that has to be present.
Having other kids.
Yeah. And you pay $400 to have a Zoom call with this guy. And one of the things that I did note down that I wanted to bring up while I'm talking about this specifically is that one of the articles Susan wrote, Susan, please put a link if you can to the specific article that I'm going to bring up, is that she found that he was doing these kind of like video conferencing, but on his computer, you could see he was looking up information. He had specific sites up that you could look up information about the person he was talking to. And that to me is just, holy shit. He's hot reading. He's bullshitting the viewer. And if he's insisting, like I saw one of the asterisks on his page here is the child's guardian has to be present with the child for the entire event. Obviously, the guardian has to pay for this because a 5-year-old is not going to fork over $400. So your guardian has to pay for it. So therefore, he has the name of the guardian, probably other information, especially if they pay by credit card. And he's going to be able to look that up and find that person. And then get all the information if go through social media. When you go through stuff like Been Verified or Truth Finder or stuff like that, those websites, you get everything. Everything. So you can get all this information and have it right there next to you. I mean, I tell everyone when I'm doing this show, like, it's no secret. I have a screen in front of me, but I have a screen on either side. All right. So I have 3 in front of me and I have information back and forth. The first hour of the show, I don't know if you caught it, but I was talking back and forth with the other 2 guys, private chat. So we were exchanging information about what was going on in the chat room without disturbing the show. So it's really easy for me to actually like talk to you, have a conversation, and with my hands down, I can look up information on these other 2 screens. So
I brought that up watching his Instagram videos because, you know, you just see his face very uncomfortably close up, I might add.
Yeah.
You know, so you don't know, you know, he could have his phone. He could have, you know, multiple PC screens, you know, like you do. He could have a laptop off to the side, you know. And, you know, I don't want to sound, I don't care if I sound cynical, but there's nothing about this workshop that to me doesn't sound like it could be total jive. You know, the fact that, you know, he has to know who these people are beforehand because they're signing up for the course. And like you said, there's tons and tons of resources out there that you could look up as much information as you need from these people. Or, you know, if you don't get what you need, you can always, you know, come up with a little bit of cold reading on the spot if you're somebody that's, you know, practiced as presumably he is.
Yeah, it's not hard at all, honestly. I mean, I came home like yesterday, I think, yesterday or day before, and I had a stack of papers, which was about, I think it was like 62 pages, and it was a background check on someone. I'm not going to tell you who, but a background check. And I showed my wife. She's like, "Holy shit! What is all that?" I was like, "This is like for a small fee. I was able to get like person's location, all their phone numbers they've ever had, all their addresses, their assets, their relationships, everything. And it was a couple clicks of my mouse, and I had all this information at the ready. And I've done it before where I actually gave a talk for a humanist group with my friend Rob Palmer. We did a talk on psychics, and during my part, I stopped right in the middle and I did psychic readings on several of the people in the audience, and I blew them away. I knew like relatives. I knew what they did like in military like 20 years ago. I knew what they did for hobbies, and totally blew them away. And
Yeah.
I didn't reveal until after it was all done that I looked them up. That's it. I saw who was attending. I looked them up, found all this information. I wrote it down, and I had it literally in front of me, and I was reading it off the page. So this kind of stuff, I want to make sure that we let the chat room know that we're not just picking on someone. This person has a track record of scamming people.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to give you ideas of this is how it's done. This is why it's you shouldn't support this guy. And the fact that he's doing this and targeting children.
Oh yeah.
Like, seriously, the one thing that popped out when you first sent me this was like, all right, the age range is 5 to 12 years old. 5 years old. What 5-year-old is thinking, I really want to talk to this dead relative?
Mm-hmm.
And do they actually understand like what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And this actually, I mean, this whole concept harkens back to the first hour of the show where we're talking about misinformation. You know, like you're putting this misinformation out that this guy is psychic. He's not.
Mm-hmm.
That you can talk to dead people. You cannot.
You can.
And setting people up to fail. Literally, I mean, he's setting kids up to fail.
Oh yeah.
For $400. Oh my God, $400.
And this is the thing that that really upsets me. I kind of have a threshold for how much like psychic bullshit I'll put up with.
Right.
I'm open to the argument about adults being conned, getting taken advantage of, and it's not their fault that these people can prey on emotional vulnerabilities and to some extent naivete. I'm open to that, but to go after children is
Right.
the scummiest thing imaginable. And as somebody who I haven't lost a parent, but being a parent myself, and having a really strong connection with at least one of my parents, I'm trying to put myself in a position of being a child who desperately wants to connect with somebody that they've lost, somebody that they miss, having the what memories they may have, and then adding to that the kind of bullshit run-of-the-mill milk toast kind of message that he's going to have to give, some kind of bullshit that I want you to be happy, I've always been proud of you, the kind of shit that like everybody, every parent has ever, that's ever lived has said to their kids. He's not going to tell these kids anything special, and he's going to somehow corrupt the memory that they have of their parents by giving them this false impression that not only is are my loved ones still out there somewhere, but they have a message for me. This guy can deliver that message, and he can teach me how to communicate with them too.
Right.
The dead don't talk, but at the same time, you can have, I imagine that you can have a kind of relationship through imagination, through memory, where you can kind of have a dialogue with people that have passed away. I was very close with a great grandmother that I had, and once in a while I'll have dreams in which she appears, and even if it's not anything that we have any kind of conversation in the dream, it's still nice. There's still a kind of sense of familiarity there. So the idea of taking that kind of very pure, very wholesome experience and not only turning it into something that you can make a buck off of, but then also you're going to convince children that they have this kind of superpower, so that they're going to be wasting their time, their emotional energy on trying to act as some kind of, radio receiver for the other side. Like, to me, it was like, no. I'm,
Right.
when I messaged you that day, I was like so hyped up. By the time I was done, like putting everybody on blast, I was sitting there and I was like, fuck, I don't even remember how I heard about this. Like I was ranting and raving about it for so long. I was like, shit, I don't even remember where I first saw this.
Right.
Like, that's how long this has been going on.
And that's when you wrote to me initially about this. Yes, definitely you were in an excited attitude, and I was like, all right, I'm not going to respond yet. I'm just going to wait, let it ride,
Let him come down.
let him, come off your high, just come back down to ground level, and we'll discuss this. But I'm totally on board with what you want to do here, because it was just I agree. There's an issue with this. And John, my buddy John in the chat room, kind of touches on it. I don't know about a mental disorder. I'm not qualified to say that, but I do think this is a condition of priming. You're setting up someone for a behavioral problem, because if you start them out, it's basically, I want to harken back to like religious upbringing. We are basically brainwashed when we're young. If we have religious parents, they teach you this. You learn from them. It's not really ill will. They're not doing something to harm us or, on purpose to make us feel bad or fuck us up. But they instill these beliefs in us, and we grow up with them, so we believe them. That's our core belief. We accept that. And I think this kind of thing, if you take your child to a psychic that's holding this kind of workshop here, especially one with his kind of reputation, because just to flat out, he's an asshole.
Yeah.
That's it. Look at his record. Look back on all the things he's done. This guy is bad news. You take them there, you get this impression, the kids get this impression that, okay, we can talk to dead people. They talk back. This guy is psychic. He taught me how to do this. Fast forward 20 years later, and it's like, oh, well, I was told when I was 5 years old, I had psychic abilities, and I can do this. And unfortunately, because that's part of your core belief, you run with it. And it becomes more difficult to break you of that habit, because it's been instilled in you for so long.
Well, I would also like to point out too, because I've thought about this. What happens when the dead don't talk back? What happens when these kids go through whatever silly little exercises he's going to teach them, and nothing happens? They invest time, they get their hopes up, they really think that this is gonna work, and then it doesn't. If this is somebody who maybe recently lost a loved one, hell, let's say if this is somebody who recently lost a loved one due to COVID, they're going to be trying this, and that kind of grief is going to be fresh in their mind. How much more devastated and let down do you think they're going to be when this doesn't work?
Right. And I do want to address, somebody asked in the chat room a while ago, and I apologize for not getting to it right away. They asked if there was any disclaimer about this being for entertainment purposes only. No.
I did not see one.
I didn't. This is the only page. So on
Which I
on
feel like if you were going to put an entertainer disclaimer on something like this, fuck you in the neck anyway. You're just a fucking asshole. Like,
so this is I want to point out, this is the entire page. You are seeing right now the entire page on this website, My Shopify. So there is nothing in here saying this for entertainment only, no disclaimer whatsoever. The only thing that I see is right here that I highlighted, all sales are final. So if you don't get results, too bad.
shit. Yeah.
You're out $400. And I've dealt with too many people. There's a paranormal gadget company that I deal with. I deal with the owner that same way. All sales are final. He doesn't give any refunds because he's a dick. But this kind of stuff just, it worries me, because it's all up here. There is not a lot of information. You get this like, oh, skip the long wait time for private readings. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a long wait line. He's constantly doing these kind of projects to try to get to get some business. So I'm pretty sure he does not have a long line. And then receive psychic guidance, all this stuff. You and I can make this stuff up as we go.
Mm-hmm.
And we've already seen, again, I'm going to refer to Susan Gerbic and the articles that she's written, the very well investigated. I mean, it's a lot. There's a lot there, and you can really get into detail. But she shows, without a doubt, that he's cheating.
Mm-hmm.
So be aware of that. I want to see. There's a question that came up. What state arrested him? I don't know, Carol. Susan has that information. I know she does. If she can answer that better than I can.
I didn't bother to write that that down.
I do have information on him in my files, but I don't. It's not something that I can pull up quick. It wasn't for psychic stuff. It was for something different. But
that was just straight out fraud.
Yeah,
because that was when he was defrauding people out of their safety or their security deposits.
Yes, with the rental property, right?
Yeah, he was posting fake apartment ads, and then he would collect on the security deposits.
Yes,
and then,
that's what it was.
And he did plead guilty to that. So that's
Susan. If you have a link to that, if you have something to that effect, can you please post that in the chat room? I appreciate it. Or I'll find it later, Carol. And
I was going to say that is also on the Wikipedia page for Thomas John, which the Guerrilla Skeptics, I assume, have had some hand in editing to keep honest.
I'm pretty sure they have. Because they've been really good, and the Guerrilla Skeptics are a team. They're not just like skeptics that are biased towards skepticism. Like, we're going to prove every claim wrong. No, what that team is, as far as I've seen, is that they put up solid information. And when you see like a Wikipedia page that has like 2 or 3 references, if the Guerrilla Skeptics come in and revamp that site, you're talking like 30, 40, 50 references. Everything they put in there is referenced and cited, so you can where the information came from. So really good work. I put more confidence in Wikipedia now, especially when I know that they've worked on a site. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to look up his Wikipedia. Oh wait, there it is. I'm going to put this link in the chat room so you can get more information on it. So it's going in right now. So it's going to post right now. There you go.
I don't know if that's pronounced Chanel. I see in the chat she posted, how can he guarantee you will get in touch with anything, let alone their loved one? So that's exactly my point. That's why I think that what he's advertising violates one of the rules of the acceptable use policy for Shopify. They have a disclaimer against false advertising.
Right.
In my opinion, if he can't somehow guarantee that he will give one of those 8 kids an individualized, personalized message guaranteed to come from the other side, then he's not really delivering on what he's promising.
Right. Exactly. Carol Love wants to know, is this straight out fraud? Again,
Well,
first, we are not legal counsel. Okay? We're not. So we are not qualified to actually answer this. But my personal opinion, yes. Totally. Fucking fraud. He's taking money for something he can't do. That would be like me saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to talk to your deceased loved ones. Give me $500 and I'm going to give you messages from them. And then I turn around, make up some bullshit, give it to you, and that's it. No disclaimer, nothing. Basically, I lied.
well, first of all, if you actually could talk to the dead and you're going to charge to give kids messages from their relatives, like, where are your priorities at, man? You know, I mean, if you could talk to the dead, period, why are you going after like $400 for, you know, a session with like 8 kids and their guardians? Like, surely there has to be more profitable for both you and, you know, the whole of mankind,
Right.
more profitable things that you could be doing with this gift.
Right. I mean, if you're talking to the dead and getting information, then it shouldn't be so general. And that's the big thing. We're winding down, so I want to start coming down off of our excited high here because I'm really into this. I can go for like another fucking hour, but I would expect more information. And I've said this like a dozen times before. I use little. Do I have it here? I don't have one. I usually have little counters when I get readings. When I go to a medium that says they're talking to a deceased loved one, I have a little counter that wraps around my finger, and I click it every time they ask me a question. And I usually average about 2 questions a minute. That's a lot. When if you're talking to a deceased loved one that's standing behind me. So as I take it, that would be like if you and I are together and you're standing behind me and the psychic is addressing you, asking questions about me. You should be able to tell them, like, oh yeah, he's got a tattoo here. He did this. He had a hot dog with chili on it for lunch today. You should be able to give them information that's not in the form of a question. This is not fucking Jeopardy. You know, give me a full statement.
Yeah.
Don't ask me a fucking question. Tell me something straight up.
Yeah.
God.
You're supposed to be talking to them. Why are you asking the living guy the question?
Exactly. Ask the dead guy for clarification. That's what it comes down to.
Now, I also had to wonder too, with his having the guardians be present. I mean, one, I imagine that's probably for some kind of legality issue, but I also wondered if that would make cold reading, you know, assuming that cold reading was a technique that he employed, you know, would that make it easier? Because I imagine, you know, depending on the age of a kid, like a 5-year-old is going to be able to answer questions or not answer questions in a way that like a 12-year-old is going to be completely different.
Right. I think, I mean, having the guardian there is essential. First, because they're the one that is paying for it.
Right.
You know, they're paying for it, so they're using your credit card. There's no cash. I mean, I'm confident that there is no cash transaction here because it's all online. It's all virtual. There is no personal contact. There's no personal meeting, nothing. So it's paid by credit card. Right there, I have all your information. I know who you are.
I don't know if it uses PayPal. I've never done anything on Shopify. But
But
that
you
could
still
be
get the name. You still get
Yeah.
at least a name that I can look you up with. And then you have to give some kind of ID to join Zoom, so I can make sure that I'm talking to the right person.
Mhm.
So I can get information off of that, and then the guardian is there to, I guess, acknowledge or confirm or deny certain things, because this is my opinion, but if a kid is sitting in front of the screen like we are now,
Mhm.
and this adult is saying, "Oh, I'm getting grandpa or grandma," the kid's going to go
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
and look at the adult, and the adult's going to go, "Oh, okay, yeah, maybe," or that. So you're having a reading with two people, not one.
Right. Right.
Maybe one and a half. But that's the mentality that's going on. That's what's actually going on here. It's not, you're not having a reading with a kid. You're having
Yeah.
a reading with a kid that's looking for acknowledgement from the adult that's with them.
Yeah.
So you're reading the adult, actually, which is a big problem. That's a big problem, because you can look up. If I'm doing a reading for your kid, I'm looking you up,
Mhm.
because you're the one that's going to be posting pictures of your kid and talking about what's happening in your life. And if your parents passed away recently, that
Mhm.
means grandma and grandpa passed away, and you got an in. So
Here's an even creepier thought, because you know I'm I'm getting close to middle age now, so I'm not as like hip to technology in the way that kids younger than me use it. But I don't think it's unfair to imagine that like a 12-year-old probably has social media profiles. Maybe not Facebook. I don't think Facebook is as popular with younger kids, but TikTok maybe. You know, if he has kids in this workshop that are 12 or have social media profiles, is he going to their social media pages and getting
right.
information from them? Because
Yeah.
that's creepy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be cool with that.
I can understand creepy, and I know I've said this at least once or twice before, but doing what I do as my second job. So this is my second job, investigating these mysteries and people. I'm basically a professional stalker. That's what it is. And I mean, it sounds funny, but yes, that's what I do. If someone makes a claim, I'm looking into them. I look into their background and see where they're coming from, what they're doing, who they're associated with. Depending on the investigation, it really depends on how deep I go with that. But in much the same way, that's what people like Thomas John are doing. They're basically investigating you,
Mhm.
and you can pull up various sites and get information. So yeah, like somebody mentioned in the chat room about, like, are they well, the question I have on screen, duh, it's right in front of me. Might it be the parents that want this more than the kids? Absolutely. Absolutely. They might be saying, hey, I believe in psychics. I think psychics are real.
Mhm.
We're going to get a reading. You're going to get a reading, little Johnny, for me.
Mhm.
And that's what we're going to do. I'm going to put you in front of the camera. I'm going to be right here next to you. And we're both going to get a reading.
Yeah.
And I feel a little sorry for them, because I can
Oh
understand
yeah.
if the adult is the one that's going through a major loss and they want some kind of like connection or idea, like, okay,
Mhm.
the person that passed on is okay. I want to know that closure.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that closure can also lead to an addiction that, goes into
Mhm.
further monetary contributions and stuff like that. But that's for another show.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and I think the bottom line here is that I think, well, my last opinion, I'm going to give my final thoughts, and then I'll let you close out the show with your final thoughts. But I think what this gentleman is doing is wrong. I don't necessarily know if it's unethical, but it's immoral, in my opinion. I don't think he's legitimate. I think he's a fraud. I think he's a scam artist. I think he's no better than the people that call me because my car insurance has lapsed. I put him on the same level as those people. And I hope that everyone watching this feels the same and will go to Shopify and complain, because I think this exploitation of children, and I don't approve. So that's my opinion. What's yours?
I think he's an asshole. I think he's scum. Even if he genuinely had psychic powers, I think it's incredibly inappropriate to involve children in that,
Right.
being that they aren't able to make any kind of rational, informed decision about whether or not they want to participate. I think it's immoral. It's disgusting. He was somebody that I didn't like before, and I had a vested interest in, keeping tabs on what he was doing and trying to work, to expose some of the chicanery that he does. But when I saw that, I was like, no, this guy's got to go down. Like I want to bring the pain. So, my hope is for something kind of short-term, immediate, getting Shopify, getting enough interest in what he's advertising through Shopify that hopefully they will, look into it, reconsider their, business relationship with him. Hopefully the event would get canceled. Hopefully he would get delisted from their platform. If anybody else has any ideas about where to go or who to talk to, I'm all for it. This was kind of the idea that immediately popped into my head and to me had maybe the best chance for success because it's kind of shooting for a smaller target, setting the bar kind of low.
Yeah.
Just getting this one event canceled, maybe getting him delisted from this one platform, he's going to come back. He's always going to find some, some place to kind of hawk his wares. But, people like Susan and, the Gorilla Skeptics, the people that she works with, they're always going to be right on his tail. But in this immediate case, I would really like to see, if people out there share the same kind of outrage and stuff that I feel, that we do something about it.
Right. Cool. Good. I'm glad you came on. I'm glad we covered this
Thank
topic.
you for having me.
This was fun. And always, I mean, when you have something like this, just like you did, I mean, reach out to me. You can come on. I like talking about this stuff, and it really gets it out there. I mean, I'm looking at the terms of service and what it's. I'm going to share it before we go. I'm going to share it because it's just, it's right there. It says, let me see if I can blow this up a little bit. Child exploitation. You may not offer goods or services or post or upload materials that exploit or abuse children, including but not limited to images. Okay, so it goes into other stuff, sexual manner, which is not relevant here.
But not limited to, though. So
right.
I think that's the key.
The big thing here is that you're offering services that exploit children. I think this exploits children. I really think it does, because you're presenting something that has been shown to be false over and over again. That's never been proven to be true, but you're offering this service specifically to children.
And that was part of the letter that I wrote to Shopify. Was that mediumship has never been proven to be anything besides hot and cold reading.
Right.
You know,
And yeah, that's the problem. Hey, if you can really do what you say you can do, I'm more than willing to be part of that testing process. And I know people. I'm good friends with people that offer $250,000 prize for that, which you can donate to charity. All right, so there's not an issue of greed or I don't do this for money bullshit. You can donate it to charity and help a lot of people, a lot of kids. Hey, you can do that and prove to the world that this stuff works. So do it. But doing this kind of thing where you're offering a service to children, which is an unproven service, is unethical. I would say that's how I view it. I think it's just scum. Horrible. I don't like this guy. No secret. I've not only read the articles by Susan, but I've double checked the articles by Susan. Because my philosophy, I don't trust anyone. I don't care who you are. My own parents, if they want to tell me, my own wife, they want to tell me something, I check it. I check that shit and make sure it's right or wrong. So I've done the same thing with Susan's articles, and I found the same shit. I think he's faking it, and in this case, he's doing a disservice. Don't expose your kids to this. That's it. I'm done. This guy. All right. So let's close it out. Let's see. Are you working on anything? Do you want to promote anything?
So I am currently working on new episodes of my podcast, The Devil in the Details. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, any place that you usually listen to podcasts on. And yeah, just working on right now, immediate future, trying to take down Thomas John.
Good job. And I do suggest anyone, if you're interested, go check out his podcast. I love it. It's to the point. You have a good podcast voice. So it's nice to listen to. You have the facts. You back it up. You get a little zing attitude in there once in a while, which I like. I definitely can appreciate because especially with my.
I had a good mentor.
Oh man. That's awesome.
So the next couple episodes that I'm going to be doing are on, Kenny's favorite topic, demonic possession, exorcism. So we're going to be looking at the case that inspired William Peter Blatty's The Exorcist, and then another famous author around the same period of time that wrote a book really popularizing the concept. And maybe taking a look at some of the more recent news stories. There's so many, so I don't know if I'd be able to cover them all. But
you know what, dude? There is never enough time. Honestly, yeah. I have currently three copybooks like this one. One for podcast, one for standalone videos, one for articles that I research on. And there are so many fucking notes on all of that stuff that even if I quit my job and went full-time doing this, which I just can't afford, I would not be able to do it all. So pick and choose, do what excites you. That's my.
I was gonna say there's a couple things that you and I are kind of working on.
Yeah.
Either we've collaborated on or we're working on tangentially, but I didn't know how much of that I should talk about.
Yeah, let's not get into that yet because I don't want to give any hints to anyone, just in case someone's listening. But yeah, we do have something that we're collaborating on, which is fun. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
So with that, all right, I'm going to let you go. My computer's actually acting weird, so I'm going to take my time here and say goodnight. Thank you for hanging out with me.
Good night.
I appreciate it. And I'm going to let you go. I'm going to put you in the background. If you want to drop out, that's fine. If you want to stick around and talk for a couple minutes after the show, awesome. But there you go. All right. So let me get this comment out of the way and go back to just me. All right. Oh, and you know what? Since I'm back to just me, I'm going to put my fucking frame on because I miss it. There it is. I feel so good. I had to take it off because when you have 3 people on there, it just doesn't. Poor Tim was on the bottom, like looking at like Ziggy on the comic strips. Anyway, so there you go. That's our show for tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. I hope you got some ideas about questioning. Maybe, because we did the first part where we explored bad research methods. So big thank you to Dave and Tim for joining me tonight. I really appreciate that. And going over these bad research methods and how they just fuck up everything. Oh my God, I hate that shit. So at least you have a good idea of what kind of stuff is out there and maybe to avoid it, or not necessarily avoid it, but to counter it. I hope you learned about that. And then in the second part, thank you, JD, for coming out and talking about this psychic thing targeted to kids. I really, really have a big problem with that. I think I'm going to probably be up all night doing something about that. But I appreciate everyone staying with me, spending your Friday night with me. I don't have much coming up. I really don't. Let me look at my calendar here real fast before I go and make something up. So for the rest of this month, let me see. Nope. That's my COVID shot next Thursday. I have on my schedule. Actually, February. Let me see. No, that's not it. I'm looking for things that I have actually set up. Oh, the next event I have is March 18th. I'll be on Crossroads podcast, which is a paranormal podcast. I'm going to be talking about skeptical stuff. Other than that, I don't have anything planned. I'm going to be doing the show next Friday. I don't know what I have planned, so tune in anyway. Tomorrow night, Saturday night, 8:00 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 5:00 Pacific, right? I think so. 3 Tortured Souls with Tim and Dave, who you saw tonight. We're going to be talking about mechanisms. I'm the one in charge for the show tomorrow night. So mechanisms are basically like how things happen or how things are supposed to happen. So we're going to get into that, especially with haunted items. So if you're interested, grab a drink, tune in tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, which is really, really good. If you guys have suggestions for topics, feel free to send me a message. If you have paranormal equipment that you don't use anymore, send it to me. Send me a message. We'll talk because I usually take stuff as donations so that I can take it apart, experiment, figure out what's really going on. And I usually write up an article about it and post it online so you guys can get some information about that. I'm looking at the comments here. Oh, look at that. Thank you, Coral. Just submitted a complaint for deceptive practices. Thanks for providing the link. You are welcome. Thank you, JD, for providing all the information for me. And that's it. That's really it. I'm going to get out of here because I can feel the intoxication taking effect. So I'm getting out of here before I start slurring my words any worse than I already am. So with that, stay safe, have a good weekend, and please never stop learning. See you next week.